Good morning. You are now tuned to the CWA Civil Rights Talk Show, an hour of power. Now, here's your host, the incomparable Yellow Miner.
Good morning, human rights activists all over the world, and welcome back to Communication Workers of America, CWA Human Rights, Our Power, a justice-filled hour of talk, solidarity, and worker power right here on KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're visiting the beautiful city of Houston, you can take us home with you on kyokradio.org, or you may listen and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and the CWA Strong app. Search for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Thank you for joining us this morning on the CWA Human Rights Hour Power Radio Show. It's about us. That's right. It's about us. Working agreements, solidarity, living wages, worker power, and simply put, human rights. Honk your horns if you support workers. We have a phenomenal show lineup with Micaiah Jones, Sir Reginald Small, Timmy Wiley, and Tay Aikens today. So don't you dare change that dial. Tune in this morning because we will be discussing the National Native American Heritage Month, gender justice discussion, Union Buster of the Week, and our Power Trivia. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. Our union voices are ringing in every district from Alaska to Maine, Texas to Minnesota, Canada to Puerto Rico, because we don't play at CWA. Our union brothers, sisters, and siblings at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette have been outside for 24 months striking on the picket lines. And yet, while they're striking, they're still churning out the news with facts for you and me. And let's show our support to them by making sure we subscribe to unionprogress.com. And once you subscribe to their free publication, how about going over and donating to their strike fund at cwa.org/ppg-donate. And somehow, some way, I just heard someone shout, when we fight, we win. Our brothers, sisters, and siblings at Maximus are still fighting for a contract. We ask that you continue to support the workers of Maximus and their families at cwa.org/CCW Solidarity Fund. You're tuned into the KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. And if you're on the go, you can take us with you on kyokradio.org. Ella Jenkins, often referred to as the First Lady of Children's Music, is an influential African-American folk musician, educator, and cultural icon. Born on August 6, 1924 in St. Louis, Missouri, she grew up in Chicago. Jenkins is renowned for her innovative contributions to children's music, her role in fostering cultural appreciation and understanding, and her work in advancing civil and human rights through music. A self-taught musician who defied her industry's norms by recording and performing solely for children, and in so doing transformed a marginal and moralistic genre into a celebration of a diverse yet common humanity with songs like You'll Sing a Song and I'll Sing a Song. Miss Jenkins had no formal music training, but she had an innate sense of rhythm. She absorbed the everyday melodies of her childhood, the playground clapping games, the high school sports chants, the calls of a sidewalk watermelon vendor hawking all his produce. As an adult, she paired such sing-song rhythms with original compositions and sought not simply to amuse or distract children, but also to teach them to respect themselves and others. Against the sound of a kazoo, a harmonica, a variety of hand drums, or later a baritone ukulele, Miss Jenkins sang subtly instructive lyrics as "In a Neighbor is a Friendly Place," a song that she wrote in 1976. You can say hi to friends passing by. A neighborhood is a friendly place. You can say hello to people that you know. A neighborhood is a friendly place. Neighbors learn to share. Neighbors learn to care. A neighborhood is a friendly place. Over children's steady clapping, she recorded the age-old "A Sailor Went to Sea." A sailor went to sea, to see what he could see. And all that he could see was down in the bottom of the CCC. For many parents and classroom teachers, Miss Jenkins' renditions of traditional nursery rhymes like Miss Mary Mack and the Muffin Man are authoritative. From the start of her career in the 1950s, she emphasized a signature approach of a call and response, inviting her audience to actively participate in the music making process. This method granted them an equal stake in the success of the songs. She had observed Cab Calloway use the technique in Heidi Ho, and she believed that the underlying idea expressed through playful interactions was that all great things in the world stemmed from collaboration. In one of her most popular recordings, Miss Jenkins sings out, "Did you feed my cow?" "Yes, ma'am," a group of children trumpeted back, and the song would continue. "Could you tell me how?" "Yes, ma'am." "What did you feed her?" "Corn and hay." "What did you feed her?" "Corn and hay." As she revived traditional children's songs, she also expanded the genre's global reach. Prior to Miss Jenkins, children's music in the United States largely consisted of simplified, often cartoonish interpretations of classical music. Ella Jenkins's music has been a powerful tool for promoting civil rights, human rights, and cultural unity. Her work emphasized cultural education and inclusion, and through her music, she taught children about diverse cultures, languages, and traditions, fostering empathy and understanding. This effort aligned with the broader civil rights movement's goal of breaking down racial and cultural barriers. Representation as a Black woman in a predominantly white industry, Jenkins's visibility and success challenged stereotypes and inspired future generations of artists and educators. Finally, social advocacy. While not always directly political, her songs often emphasize themes of fairness, equality, and shared humanity, echoing the principles of civil and human rights movements. Ella Jenkins's music spans decades, and her albums are celebrated for their inclusivity and educational value. Some of her most notable works not only was You'll Sing a Song and I'll Sing a Song, but Come Dance by the Ocean in 1992, a multicultural exploration of rhythms and dances from around the world. Multicultural Children's Songs in 1985, which was a collection that introduced children to songs from diverse cultures, promoting global awareness and appreciation. Then in 2007, she released songs, rhythms, and chants for a dance, a resource blending music and movement to celebrate cultural traditions. Miss Jenkins had a prolific recording career. She recorded over 40 albums during her career, many of which are considered staples in early childhood education. She pioneered innovative methods in children's music, such as the call and response singing, which engages listeners and fosters communal participation. Jenkins performed and taught in schools, libraries, and community centers, bringing music and cultural education to countless children and educators. Ella Jenkins's contributions have earned her numerous accolades, including Grammy Lifetime Achievements Awards, ASCAP Foundation Lifetime Achievement Awards, National Endowment for the Arts National Heritage Fellowship, multiple Grammy nominations, and finally, a Kennedy Center honors. Though not officially awarded, Jenkins has often been cited as deserving due to her lifelong impact on arts and culture. Ella Jenkins's life and work exemplify the power of music as a tool for education, cultural preservation, and social change. Her influence extends beyond the realm of children's music, inspiring educators, artists, and activists to use creativity to promote equity and understanding. By bridging cultural divides and uplifting marginalized voices, Jenkins has made a lasting contribution to civil rights and human rights that will continue for generations. Ella Jenkins, known as the First Lady of Children's Music, passed away on Saturday, November 9th, at the age of 100 at her home in Chicago. We salute and thank you, Miss Ella Jenkins. You are tuned into KYOK 1140 AM at the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you on kyokradio.org. You may now listen and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast player: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and the CWA Strong app by searching for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Up next is Micaiah Jones with the spotlight on Indigenous Heritage Month. Good morning, Micaiah.
Good morning, Aaron. Good morning, KYOK radio listeners. How are you today? Well, I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm going to talk to you about Indigenous American Heritage Month, formerly known as Native American History Month. Each year, it's celebrated in November as a time to celebrate the traditions, languages, and stories of Indigenous American and Alaskan Native communities and ensure their rich histories and contributions continue to thrive with each passing generation. This November and every month, we celebrate the culture and heritage of these remarkable Americans who deeply enriched the quality and character of our nation. For almost 100 years, Americans, both Indian and non-Indian, have urged that there be permanently designated place on the calendar to honor the contributions, achievements, sacrifices, and cultural and historical legacy of the original inhabitants of what is now the United States and their descendants, the American Indian and Alaskan Native people. The origins of Indigenous American Heritage Month date back to 1970, when the first Native American Awareness Week was celebrated. This week was organized by the National Congress of American Indians to highlight the contributions and culture of Indigenous Americans. And in 1990, President George H.W. Bush officially proclaimed the month of November as a National Indigenous American Heritage Month. The month was chosen as a way to coincide with the anniversaries of the Mayflower's Landing and the Indian Removal Act. The observance seeks to educate the public about the unique challenges faced by Indigenous Americans, tribes, and individuals, and to celebrate their culture, history, and achievements. Indigenous American Heritage Month is an opportunity to celebrate the diverse cultures of Native people across the United States, from the many tribes in Alaska, Hawaii, and the continental U.S. The month is also a time to raise awareness about Indigenous American languages, arts, music, food, and more. It aims to recognize the historical struggles of Native American communities, including the impact of colonization, forced relocation, violence, and the ongoing fight for sovereignty, cultural preservation, and justice. Indigenous Americans have made substantial contributions to various fields, including politics, the arts, science, and the military. For instance, notable figures such as Sacagawea, Chief Joseph, and Indigenous American war heroes like the Navajo Code Talkers are honored. And while celebrating the contributions and culture of Indigenous Americans, Indigenous American Heritage Month also brings attention to contemporary issues affecting Indigenous communities such as land rights and sovereignty. Many Native American tribes continue to fight for their land rights and political sovereignty. Health and education disparities. Native communities face significant disparities in healthcare, education, and economic opportunities. And then there's also missing and murdered Indigenous women, or MMIW, a significant social issue that has gained national attention, addressing the disproportionately high rates of violence and disappearance of Indigenous women and girls. Indigenous American Heritage Month serves as a reminder to reflect on the past, understand the present, and recognize the continued cultural and political contributions of Indigenous Americans to the U.S. So happy Indigenous American Heritage Month, and remember, Indigenous culture is not a costume. Back to you, Errol.
Thank you so much, Micaiah Jones. You're listening to CWA Hour Power Hour on KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you on kyokradio.org. Up next, we're going to be talking about gender justice, the CWA way, facts versus fiction, with Miss Timia Wiley. Good morning, Timia. How are you?
Good morning, Errol. I am fine. I am great. I'm glad to be up this morning. Thank you for asking. So this morning, before we even get started with gender justice, I want to level set everything. The reason why it's so important for us as a union, as a working class, is because it affects people who are in our community. And we all have to, if we're all fighting for the same thing, we can't leave anybody behind. We have to know what is ailing the people that we work with, the people that we love, so that we can all stand together. Sometimes not being a part of a community is a privilege. It can be seen as a privilege. You can use your privilege to help them out, help out the LGBTQ plus community. And that's why learning about gender justice and taking the time out to know who's in your community, who's in your family, who you're working with is so important. So going forward, CWA has a great training called Gender Justice, where we take a deep dive into pronouns. We talk about the history of patriarchy and a little bit of history about, for instance, the flight attendants and what they had to deal with as workers back then versus now, how they were able to come together and fight for what was right and make it a better workplace for not just them, but for other people in the workforce. And that's what it's all about. It's not about just us. It's not about just we. It's about broadening the horizons and making things better for the working class as a whole.
And also, when we start talking about gender justice also can bring about the pay equity gap, in which our very own Makia Jones is the expert in that particular area.
She is. She is, and she has stepped away for the moment. So we will come back to her in just a little bit. But I will say that there's a such thing as double discrimination. Mm-hmm. And with double discrimination, you can be Black and be discriminated against, and you can be Black and LGBTQ plus, and that's double discrimination. Unfortunately, we see these marginalized communities making less money by depending on what you can be discriminated against. So if you're doubly discriminated against, that's going to doubly affect your pockets.
Correct.
Right. And the myth is that there is no discrimination. Everyone is getting paid the same and that's the importance of these classes. So you understand that that is not the truth. We dig deep when we actually do these classes. They are very informative. And it actually shows you different things that you may not experience yourself, but they are happening. And that's when we were talking about the importance of having this class and understanding why we do these classes. It's just to inform you and let you know, just because you're not affected by certain things do not mean our other union brothers and sisters are not affected by these things.
And one of the things that when we start teaching the gender justice classes, one of the things that I express is that an injury to one is an injury to all. And we have to keep that in mind everywhere we go. If one of our brothers, sisters, siblings is injured, that affects everybody.
It does, and that's why we have our union. It's for that support. And how do we as a union say that one group or one person or such people are not important? We have to keep reminding ourselves as we grow and as we become diverse that means accepting all. And again, it doesn't have to necessarily impact you, but these are the people that I've grown to love. So I'm fighting for my union siblings, and if that means that I need to be educated on things that are going to help me with this fight, then that's what I'm going to do. We don't always have to agree. We don't always have to say, this is what I'm going with, but it's really about understanding the importance of solidarity and how we can combat these issues together, stronger together.
Right. And one of the things that we also look at, and I want Timia to kind of tell that story about the airline attendant, if she doesn't mind, where not the airline attendant, but the passenger coming, and he has to make that decision on what aisle he's going to sit on or who he's going to sit next to. So if you can, Timia, I want you to tell that little story if you remember it. But we also delve into talking about where do our biases come from? How our biases, they start early in childhood and usually stem from events related to family circumstances, to our communities or to the faith community, leisure activities, school, or just even around our friends. And so our biases are influenced by economic backgrounds, gender, sexual orientation, and even your ethnic background. So we look into all of that, and that's why it's so important that we are teaching gender justice classes, so that when we come across individuals in our workforce or in everyday life, we have an understanding of they may not be like me, but I can be their ally.
That is so true. And Errol, don't forget about the media. We all remember.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we all remember Jaws and how everybody was afraid of sharks, even though the probability of you getting bit by a shark was very, very low. But because of the media, Jaws had everybody afraid of sharks. And that's with our biases. Our biases come from a deep part of our DNA that keeps us safe, that wants to keep us safe. And that's another reason why a lot of times you're afraid of what you don't know. You have to get to know the people around you.
And to me, I can say that sometimes we don't even realize we have biases.
Right.
That's what I've learned through going through all the classes. People come in and we talk about what kind of biases do you have, and you get a lot of I don't have any bias. I don't have any bias. And then we get deep into it, and you realize I didn't even know that was bias of me. I did not know that my perception of someone before even knowing them could be my bias from how I've grown. So it is very interesting to learn things. And like I said, you learn things about yourself you never knew, because it opened my world to something completely different. I realized growing up, you do see things different. You are raised in a certain way. And a lot of people who have those biases say, well, when I was raised, it was like, and that's when you start, that's your bias there, is because you were raised a certain way. So you automatically look at it that way.
That is very true. It's a little exercise that we do. Let's just say you're running. Okay, picture this. You're at the airport. You're running late for your flight. They've given your seat away because they didn't think you were coming. You get to the gate. They give you a ticket. You board the flight. Who are you going to sit beside? Who are you going to choose? Is it going to be the teenagers that are yapping? Is it going to be the lady with the small baby that may cry in flight? Who are you going to feel the most comfortable sitting beside? That's something that a lot of times your biases will raise up in just in those split second thoughts, that we want to congregate and go with what's comfortable without getting to know somebody else or stepping outside the box. Because we as a working class, we have so much in common with one another. We might look different, smell different, but at the end of the day, we have more in common than you would think.
You're absolutely correct. And although you may walk around saying, I'm a good person, I'm not sexist, I'm not racist, I'm not prejudiced, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, when you go through this training, you will recognize some biases that you have, some personal biases.
You absolutely will. Because what do you lean on? When the chips are down, what do you lean on? What comfort do you lean on? Sometimes I admonish everybody to think outside of the box and get to know the people that you work with. You would be surprised how much you have in common with them.
And yes, we are more alike. Go ahead, Tay. I'm sorry.
Oh no, Errol, I was just gonna say to Tamir, you're absolutely correct. When I get into the workforce, you never know that your best coworker or your best friend at work may be twice your age or anything like that because you get comfortable, you start learning about people, and you're like, wow, we have so much in common. And you're like, well, to me, I looked at you and I seen that maybe we had nothing in common. That's my own bias. I looked at you and just assumed that we had nothing in common. We have to take the time to get to know each other outside physical appearance, outside anything other than who you are as a person. We have to take out the stereotype of this person looks like someone who's not approachable, or this person looks like somebody I would have nothing in common with, or this person we don't have the same cause, because we all do as working people. Whether you believe it or not, if I look at you, Errol, and say, I was tired after work today, I'm sure you're gonna be tired after work today too. You know, Errol, today was a long day because we're in the same work field. Or if you have kids, and we can talk about, there's just different things that you have to get to know someone, and it's not about appearance at all.
It's not,
Right.
and another thing, go ahead, Aaron.
Go ahead.
I was going to say another thing that the training touches on is pronouns. While the trainings, we're not here to change anybody's mind or make you believe anything, but pronouns are a big part of our culture going forward. And it's an open space for you to ask questions. A lot of times I will get people in the classroom to say, I don't use pronouns. Well, if someone were to describe you, let's just say you weren't in the room, would they say, Errol, would they say he went to the restroom, or would they say she went to the restroom? So that there's using pronouns. We have to be, I'm not going to tell you what you have to do, but it's very courteous of you to call people what they like to be called, to refer to them as what they like to be referred to. And that's what this class is an open forum to ask those questions that you may have in situations like those.
And
And it's a
it just
respect,
boils down to
right,
being
Tim? Like
responsible.
if
I'm sorry,
someone
go
is,
ahead.
it's like a respecting. If someone is the same way you want somebody to call you your by your name, is the same way you should properly address people by their pronouns, right, Timia?
Yes, absolutely. It's so important because you can't name anybody, rename. That's not up to you to do that, to rename someone what you think they should be called or referred to as.
And I
And I
think
see.
people don't look at it that way. Like you go out into the world, and if you decide, like if when you go and get your coffee every morning, and you say your name is Sarah, and they decide to just call you Tracy because that's what they're gonna call you, you will be offended. And people don't recognize it that way. Like if someone was to just to decide that they're gonna identify you in whatever way they chose to, after you gave them what you like, what your preference was, you will lose your mind. And people don't look at it that way.
And this training also is geared toward the workplace as well. How many times have we been in workplace culture and we heard someone say something negative about a coworker or made a slur? And a lot of times people just laugh it off. And so this begins to correct the actions or the biases that we have dealt with or have confronted in workplace culture.
Right. It's about the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And how do we promote that if we know nothing about it? We have to educate people. We have to keep moving forward with times. We understand, and again, like Tamia, Errol, Makia, as we all said, it's not about changing you. It's about respecting others. So I'm not asking you to change your views, or we're not asking anyone to change your views. What I will say is we're asking people to respect one another, to show that we're there for one another. That's what it's all about. I understand growing up, and I understand backgrounds and things like that. But again, that's why I'm not asking anyone, or we're not asking anyone to change any views. We're sitting you down, we're giving you the training, we're offering you the information, and we're in a setting where it's a diverse group of people. So if you have questions, it's easier to ask. It's easier to say, hey, this is something I don't know. This training that CWA offers is amazing. It is one of my favorite trainings.
It
I
is.
And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about myself, others around me. I didn't know how things that we say can offend others, and we don't even know we're doing it. We're just, we're just saying, hey, this or that or they, or we don't know. So I think that that's very, very, very important that we keep highlighting this training, or we keep talking about this topic, because it's important.
And in the climate that we're in, this is going to be one of the things that we need to educate our people, our union siblings, brothers and sisters on this. And before we wrap this particular segment up, I just want to bring to your remembrance that on yesterday, it was Transgender Day of Remembrance, TDOR. And the Trans Day of Remembrance is a day in annual observance on November 20th that honors the memory of transgender individuals lost to violence and raises awareness about the discrimination and dangers that are faced by the trans community. And this Transgender Day of Remembrance was in remembrance also. I should say it was brought to the forefront by the murder of a transgender African American woman, Rita Hester, in Massachusetts. And so she lived in the neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts, and was loved in her community with her vibrant personality, advocacy, and courage in living her authentic life as a trans woman. But unfortunately, her life was cut down on November 28th, 1998, and it sparked outrage and brought attention to the epidemic of violence. And therefore, the catalyst for the Transgender Day of Remembrance, where across the nation, individuals are remembered for everything that has transpired and honoring them for giving their lives, or losing their lives, I should say, to violence, and it raises the awareness about the discrimination that's in our just in our nation. So, guys, thank you so much for talking about gender justice, and we want to also remind everyone at CWA that gender justice classes are being taught, will be taught the first quarter of next year, 2025. You need to get it on the book. So start reaching out to your human rights departments and scheduling your classes. You're listening to CWA Our Power Hour on KYOK 1140 AM and y'all new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you on kyokradio.org. And I would be remiss if I did not say we had a birthday among us. Miss Tay had her birthday on that. Tay, how do you feel?
I feel 1 year wiser. I'm so happy with all that I've accomplished. And this is to chapter 34, No Shame.
All right, chapter 34. Cheers to chapter 34. So we say happy birthday to Tay from the show, as well as the Human Rights Department of CWA. Wake up, everybody. I want to also say this. I smell a little Sagittarius season coming up. Wake up, everybody. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. Turn the volume up just a little bit louder to hear the Union Buster of the Week with Timia Wiley.
Thank you, Errol, and welcome everybody to today's segment of Union Buster of the Week. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about the importance of being in a union, because I have people asking me sometimes, they're just not quite clear of exactly what a union is. So today, we're going to explore the importance of unions in the modern workforce and how they have shaped our rights and opportunities. So let's start with the basics. What is a labor union? A labor union is an organization of workers who come together to negotiate for better wages, benefits, working conditions, and job security. Historically, unions have been the driving force behind some of the most significant changes in the workplace, from the 8-hour work week to workplace safety regulations. But what exactly makes unions powerful? You may ask. It's the collective strength of workers. Think of it this way. Alone, one worker might not have the power to change politics or improve their job conditions, but when the workers come together at the job site, they become a force to be reckoned with. By negotiating as a group, unions level the playing field between employees and employers, making sure that the workers' voices are heard. Unions aren't just about pay. They're about securing fair treatment in the workforce. For example, unions negotiate for healthcare benefits, paid leave, and retirement plans that help workers secure a better quality of life. And it's not just about today. Unions work for future generations as well, advocating for better conditions for the next wave of workers. Another key area where unions make an impact is workplace safety. Many of the safety regulations we take for granted today were fought for by unions. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, was established in part because of union-driven advocacy. Workers in dangerous industries from mining to construction owe a lot to unions for the safety standards they now enjoy. But unions are more than just an advocate for the workforce. They are also helping to shape the economy. Studies show that union workers tend to earn higher wages and have better benefits than non-union workers in similar fields. This not only improves the quality of life for workers, but it also helps stimulate the economy by increasing consumer spending, creating more jobs, and promoting a fairer distribution of wealth. Unions also play a vital role in the political activism. They are often at the forefront of advocating for policies that benefit the working class, such as raising the minimum wage, advocating for paid family leave, and fighting for better health care. They also work to protect worker rights at a national level, ensuring that legislation serves the interests of everyday people, not just corporations. Now, I know there are some who believe unions are no longer necessary in today's world, but let's take a look at some real-world examples. During the pandemic, many unions stepped in to demand better protections for essential workers, healthcare workers, grocery store workers, delivery drivers, all of whom face heightened risk. Without the advocacy of unions, these workers may not have received the protections they deserved. The power of a union lies not only in its ability to negotiate for tangible benefits, but also in its role in creating a sense of solidarity. When workers stand together, they empower one another to demand the respect and fair treatment they deserve. It's about workers taking control of their own fate and shaping the work environment that they want. So just to conclude, labor unions are a vital force in advocating for fair wages, workplace safety, and economic justice. They give workers a collective voice in a world where individual voices might be overlooked. Whether it's securing better working conditions or ensuring health care for employees, are not just ensuring that they have it, but it's affordable. Because there's one thing to have health insurance and have the benefits of it, but if you can't afford it, what good does it do? So that's one thing about the union. It makes sure to negotiate for healthcare that's affordable. But unions continue to play a critical role in shaping our nation's workforce and improving lives. Way back when, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, when you could work one job and support a whole family and buy a home, you know why that was? Because there were labor unions that set the trend for pay in America, for living wages in America. As you see the decline in labor unions, you see the uprising and having to have two people work in a household just to survive. So that wraps up our segment of Union Buster for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and Errol, back to you.
Thank you so much. You're listening to Communication Workers of America, CWA Human Rights Hour Power, a justice-filled hour of talk, solidarity, and worker power right here on KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you on kyokradio.org, or you may listen and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and even the CWA Strong app. Search for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Up next, we're going to have Tay with Gender Justice Online and in Real Life. Good morning, Tay.
Good morning, and good morning, KYOK Radio and Union siblings. So we have given you some information, and we are trying to educate you as much as possible on gender justice. So first, I actually want to talk to you about what gender justice is. Gender justice aims to achieve equality and equity for all, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, by tackling root causes of discrimination and fostering equal access to resources, opportunity, and representation. So some of the gender justice issues, what gender injustice in depth would be: gender injustice driven by discrimination, sexism leads to unequal treatment across various life stages, including education, income, violence, contraception. Specifically, girls lack equal education opportunities. Women comprise 67.9% of minimum wage earners. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by violence, and 10.7% of childbearing age women had unmet contraception needs in 2023. Transgender and non-binary individuals experience multiple forms of gender injustice, including discrimination through misgendering, limited access to all gender restrooms, harassment rooted in gender identity or expression, employment discrimination involving termination, non-hiring, or promotion denial. Sometimes we don't realize that these things are still happening, but they are still prevalent in everything that we are doing today. Our union siblings have us for representation, so we are there to stand with them through these issues. And again, this is the importance of educating others when it comes to gender justice. First, we need to know what the injustices are. A lot of times, something that we've talked about in our gender justice classes is what is the difference between gender, sex, and sexuality. Gender involves self-representation, whereas to sex pertains to biology. Gender identity is diverse, extending beyond binary classifications of girl, woman, boy, or man. Sexuality refers to attraction involving who someone is drawn to. Again, as to where gender involves one's identity. So it is important to understand the difference in those things when we're talking about gender justice as well. The gender justice training, it's very important that, again, I keep stressing the importance of being educated on these topics, because it's hard to have conversations with people, represent people, if we don't understand what's actually going on. Gender justice training and education is crucial, as they empower individuals with knowledge to combat systematic gender inequalities, fostering a fairer society through self-awareness of biases, challenging stereotypes, raising awareness on gender-based discrimination, and advocating for equal rights and opportunity for all genders, regardless of gender identity or expression, ultimately contributing to a more inclusive and equitable world. What we are looking to do is make sure that as we grow as a society, we're educated on all people around us. We are having conversations about what it is to have the equal rights, what discrimination looks like. Although discrimination may not just be blasted or as broad as it used to be, it is still there. There are still people who experience discriminatory comments or misgendering is a big thing that happens now. And those are those are gender injustices. We stress the point in calling someone by their name. That means as well as also identifying them by what they would like to be identified, whether it is she, her, he, him, them, they. It doesn't matter. It's about the respect. The ways that I think that social media is definitely the place to promote gender justice. It is today's world can't live without social media. Everything that we do now is on social media. It's a place to connect with people you care about. You get to share information fast. It's the easiest way to get the latest news. You network professionally, or you get lost in conversations with like-minded folks. Social media is the communication powerhouse. We need to use that to educate people. We need to use it to bring awareness as far as gender inequalities. Also confront and overcome harmful stereotypes. We talked a lot about trolling a couple of weeks ago. When it comes to confronting those things, that means that you provide the education, you give the insight. If it is about something you know about, you share your stories or the experiences that you had to face. You mobilize with other activists to ensure you also companies who make certain remarks or they post things on social media that may be offensive or derogatory, you ensure accountability for those companies. You can report their content, you can screenshot that content and send it to the corporation. We are advocating for policy changes on social media, and we need to use our platforms to do that. Education is the most important thing. Our stories are important, but we want to educate people with facts. We want to give them the statistics. We want to show them the research on gender disparities. That elevates awareness. When people realize that these things affect their community more than they know, it gets others involved. It raises awareness. You start to connect with other groups who have the same issues. You learn a lot. So promote educational content, show the facts, empower you. You can also join different campaigns or groups, collaborate with them as far as promoting gender equality policies, legislative changes, and social reform. The whole purpose, again, of all of the classes that the CWA offers is so that we get the message out. We get the message out in the community. We have our union that we give these trainings to as well, but they trickle down because the information that I receive, I give it to another person and they give it to another person. Our social media platforms are our business. This is the way we promote. This is the way we interact with people. So use your platform for things like this, to talk about the gender inequalities, to talk about the different things that are currently happening. If there's a policy or legislative change that's happening, highlight that. If there's something coming up that goes against gender justice, highlight that, speak about it, talk about it. I always stress the importance of hashtags. You don't have to have an already created hashtag. If you are starting a movement or being engaged in a movement, you can strategically create a hashtag. You let others know about that hashtag. It not only brings awareness, but by someone clicking on a hashtag simply because they're interested in learning about something, It connects them with other activists online. It gets them involved in the issue. They get to look into that person's page who may have more information on what this hashtag means. They're critical. It's the quickest way to get some information out. It's the best way to spread awareness. And again, you just have to strategically use those hashtags to connect with other groups with similar concerns. So today I wanted to give you a little bit more information on gender justice, what that is, that gender injustices that are impacting our community, and ways that we can combat those, whether that's in person having real conversations or utilizing our platforms to have those real conversations. I'm going to go ahead and send it back over to Errol. But thank you all for listening. And please, 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 again, reach out to your leadership, your local sectors, or representatives if you are interested in taking these classes. And if you are not a part of the CWA and you are interested in information about what gender justice is or what we can do as a community to help in these issues, you can reach out as well.
All right, thank you so much, Tay. You are listening to the Communication Workers of America, CWA Human Rights Our Power, a justice-filled hour of talk, solidarity, and worker power right here on KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you on kyokradio.org. Listen and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast player at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and the CWA Strong app by searching CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Up next is Our Power Trivia with Micaiah Jones.
Hey, so I guess we're gonna have a different battle this week because our problem child, Reginald Small, decided not to work today. So for this edition of Our Power Hour Trivia, we're gonna have Timia and Tay. Again, you guys ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Ready.
Okay, now listen. Let's make sure nobody's viewing nobody in the studio. We're gonna keep it cute today. All right, so for those of you who are tuned in for the first time, it's a trivia series. I'll ask a series of questions. In order for you to answer your question, you'll have to say your name. Your name is your buzzer. You answer the question correctly, you get the point. You answer the question incorrectly, then the opponent has a chance to say their name and answer the question and get the point. All right, and guys, you guys again, are you ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
All right, first question is, how many indigenous tribes are in the United States?
Timia.
Timia.
There's 574 federally recognized tribes.
All right, one for Timia. Second question, what is the definition of gender justice?
Okay.
Tay.
Gender justice is the idea of all people having equal rights and opportunities.
Okay, all right, it's 1-1. All right, Errol, we doing good today. How many indigenous languages are there?
Timia.
Timia.
More than 300.
All right, that's 2 for Timia. Next question. What are 3 principles of gender inequality?
Timia.
Okay, now Tay, if Timia get these right, you lost, girl.
There's economic inequality, political representation, gender inequality, and education.
All right, we got a winner. Thank you for bringing it back to D3 because we was looking real bad. I'm not.
You get that Tamia out quick. Tamia, I almost forgot my name.
That's
all right. Back to you, Errol.
Tell you what happened.
Tamia's fast with the name. I almost called myself Taquasion.
Oh, no problem at all. Thank you so much for participating in Our Power Trivia. As we come down to the final minutes of the show, our union brothers, sisters, and siblings at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette have been outside for 24 months on the picket lines, and yet while they're striking, they're still churning out the news with facts for you and me. Let's show our support to them by making sure we subscribe to unionprogress.com. Once you subscribe to this free publication, how about going over and donating to their strike fund at cwa.org/ppg-donate. Just heard someone shout, "We are one." That's right, we are one. Our brothers, sisters, and siblings at Maximus are still fighting for a contract. And since you are in a giving spirit, because it is better to give than receive, journey over to cwa.org/solidarity fund and help the workers and their families of Maximus. November is Health Awareness and Heritage Month, honoring those who have served in military and the families who made sacrifices. National Native American Heritage Month. And when you take time to learn about others around you, you're making the world a better place. Awareness campaigns serve as a powerful reminder that there are steps we all must take in looking out for loved ones, the people in our community, and those who have been impacted. It's time to take one big step together and make a change. An hour is not long enough to be with you, and a week is too long to be away from you. You have been tuned into the CWA Human Rights Justice Our Power broadcast. I hope something you heard today has inspired you to take action toward creating positive change in the world. Every person has the power to make a difference. So no matter how small, and by working together, we can create a world where human rights are respected and valued. So I encourage each of you in the listening audience to reflect on your role in promoting human rights to effect change in your communities and beyond. Know that you are not alone in your quest for a more just and equitable world. When faced with injustice, it can be easy to lose hope and give up. But remember, justice may be slow, like the truth, but when it finally comes, it will stand. Until next Thursday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, right here on KYOK 1140 a.m. and the all-new 106.5 FM, KYOKradio.org. Or you may listen to us just a little bit later on today on your favorite podcast player, CWA Strong app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, or the Pod Chaser. Search for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. See you next week